Right now on the National Weather Desk, trouble in the tropics. We're now watching 3 areas of interest.
Tropical depression could form sometime this weekend or early next week.
Where's the rain? October was one of the driest months in U.S. history. What does that mean for the drought?
Extreme and exceptional drought conditions continue.
We'll take a closer look at what caused the flooding to be so bad in western North Carolina.
And there was nowhere for the water to go but into these creeks, streams, and tributaries.
And Halloween is over. How do you plan to get rid of your pumpkin?
Don't throw it in a trash bag, trash can, or anywhere where it's going to end up in a landfill.
And as we fall back this weekend, a look at the health impacts of changing our clocks.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And a very good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm WJLA Senior Meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Well, as we enter the last month of hurricane season, the National Hurricane Center is now tracking 3 areas of interest in the Atlantic, and one in particular is worth paying close attention. Meteorologist Jennifer Collins is tracking the tropics for us here this morning.
We have 3 areas we're monitoring in the Atlantic. One could show subtropical characteristics here in the northern Atlantic. That's moving away from the United States. Another one is a tropical wave producing some heavy rainfall across parts of the greater Antilles. Low chance of tropical formation with that one. This is the one we will keep a close eye on over the next few days, as we are expecting maybe some sort of development to occur by this weekend. A tropical depression could form sometime this weekend or early next week. And general movement of the system will gradually work its way north, where it could enter the Gulf of Mexico.
And in Spain, at least 205 people have now died following flash flooding in the Valencia region. Dozens are still missing, so that number could rise even higher. It all happened after a year's worth of rainfall fell in just 8 hours on Wednesday, and more rain is falling today. Survivors are trying to clear mud and debris from their homes, while others search for missing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Severe weather roared through portions of the plains late Wednesday, spawning several tornadoes. One was here in northeast Oklahoma in Ottawa County. The twister caused significant damage, shredding many roofs along its path. Preliminary information from the National Weather Service says maximum sustained winds were estimated between 95 and 105 miles per hour. In neighboring Arkansas, a confirmed tornado touched down in the town of Prairie Grove on yesterday morning. Wind speeds were estimated about 100 to about 110 miles per hour. That twister damaged roofs and vehicles as well as toppled trees.
I wasn't expecting this much when I got up. I knew there was a lot of wind, but I didn't expect the roofs to be gone.
Luckily, just one minor injury was reported. In the Northern Plains, Halloween was marked by snow. This is Minneapolis, where up to 4 inches fell throughout the day. It was the first snow of the season in the Twin Cities, which is pretty close to the average date. Back in 1991, a Halloween blizzard dumped 2 to 3 feet across that region. Well, October is now over, and here at the National Weather Desk, we say good riddance. The month was one of the driest months ever recorded in United States history. According to NOAA, the average precipitation across the lower 48 was less than an inch. That's only happened in 5 months over the past 129 years. Some places had no measurable rain at all, including New York, Philadelphia, Houston, and San Francisco. As you might imagine, the lack of rain is impacting drought conditions across the country. WJLA meteorologist Steve Rudin has more on that, as well as the outlook for rain to arrive in many spots next week.
Drought monitor map is in, and it's updated for the mid-Atlantic and, for that matter, the rest of the country. D.C. metro area under a moderate drought, but you head off toward West Virginia and then into Ohio. Extreme and exceptional drought conditions continue. West Texas over toward El Paso, also looking at extreme to exceptional drought conditions. And then a little bit farther off to the north into North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana, all looking at drought conditions right now. Here's the latest for you on our rainfall outlook. Moving into the month of November, could be a little bit higher over New Mexico and over into southern Colorado and Texas, and then over toward the mid-Atlantic. It's expected to stay dry. D.C., New York, up to Boston. But temperatures, my goodness, they are going to remain well above normal moving into the month of November. Up and down the East Coast, D.C. metro area, up to New York City, even into Detroit, Chicago, and Indianapolis. Head farther to the south and west, Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico, all looking at below normal temperatures moving into the first part of November. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin in Washington, D.C.
It's now been more than 5 weeks since Hurricane Helene brought record flooding to western North Carolina. As communities continue the long process of cleaning up, Jennifer Emmert shows us why the area was so greatly impacted by the floods.
The Swannanoa River ripped apart everything in its path, cresting over 27 feet according to U.S. Geological Survey data. Rainfall totals were the highest just to the north, where the National Weather Service confirmed 30 inches for Mount Mitchell and 2 feet or more for the Black Mountains between September 25th and the 27th.
It was like having 2 hurricanes 3 days apart.
All that water had to go somewhere.
It just became all runoff, and there was nowhere for the water to go but into these creeks, streams, and tributaries. So they filled up rapidly, causing major flooding, and then catastrophic flooding became the reality for so many.
According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, there are no hydrological benchmarks in those areas or stream gauges to have alerted to the danger. As streams and creeks rose, so did the North Fork Reservoir at least 18 feet, mechanically activating the main and auxiliary spillways, likely washing out the water transmission lines and adding to the runoff in the North Fork Swannanoa River.
It's a domino effect. Once you start moving water downhill, the speed of the water will pick up. That's going to happen whether you want it to or not. It's going to start to become more forceful as it moves faster and push more down. It's going to bring more trees down. It's going to bring debris into the water.
The more objects that were in the water, it created faster currents in between those objects.
The National Weather Service points out this is a new event of record, meaning flood maps could be redrawn. The impact that could have on homeowners and businesses going forward remains unknown.
Chimney Rock, North Carolina is one of those communities that was having a very long road to recovery. Right now, volunteers are helping downtown store owners dig out from the mud. Kimberly King has that story.
Department of Transportation crews have been in Chimney Rock for days. This track hoe behind me is working with multiple vehicles to clear a path. What they're trying to do is build a 2-lane gravel road to have access into Chimney Rock. Behind me, though, remains the devastation for this community as numerous volunteers come in here to help.
These are the teams of volunteers moving out the dirt. Christian nonprofit Spokes for Hope, based in Myrtle Beach, is recruiting helpers who drive on their own dime to Main Street. Work continues digging out the thick mud from restaurants and merchants.
And here we are now doing finishing, sweeping, shoveling, that light stuff to prepare for pressure washing the insides of the buildings.
Shop owner Vinny Sotili said volunteers ripped out all the ruined sheetrock and flooring from his store under the rock. He's determined to come back. Chimney Rock, with its famous climb to the top, of course, still stands and serves as an inspiration to volunteers who say they love this village.
By standing here in the riverbed of the Broad River, you can see the scope of the power of the water that basically eroded this entire area. DOT crews will be here for the foreseeable future. They do not have a timeline on when they'll have this road finished.
We have encouraging news today about our atmosphere. NOAA says that hole that opened each year in the ozone layer over Earth's southern pole was relatively small this year compared to other years. NOAA said the improvement is due to declines in ozone-depleting chemicals. The scientists also say the ozone layer could fully recover by 2066. Now let's check the weekend weather in the hometowns of the presidential and vice presidential candidates. We start off here this morning in New York City, where former President Trump was born. The weekend also happens to be the 53rd New York City Marathon, and the weather for Sunday's race will start in the 40s, rising to a high of about 60 degrees. Next, we head west to Oakland, California, where Vice President Harris was born. The weekend is looking great with highs in the upper 60s tomorrow and 70s by Sunday. Senator J.D. Vance was born in Middletown, Ohio, about 20 miles southwest of Dayton, and tomorrow is looking good in Middletown, but there could be rain on Sunday with a high near 72. And sadly, since we have no cameras in Nebraska this morning, where Governor Tim Walz was born, we turn to Minneapolis, where he lived since 1996, and the weather is looking pretty good for the first weekend in November. Partly cloudy skies both days, with temperatures peaking near the upper 50s on Sunday. Coming up on the National Weather Desk, why throwing out your pumpkin in the trash could hurt the environment, and the health impacts of changing our clocks twice a year.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have one more mild day on tap in the Northeast, particularly in New England, northern New Jersey, and New York. You'll see temperatures running in the 70s today. Western parts of New York, northern Vermont, it's going to be a little bit cooler. That's behind a cold front. You'll probably see a quick shower early in the day today, then developing sun returns. It's going to get windy, but again, mild for most areas. Seasonably cool air starts to move in over the weekend. Highs on Saturday will struggle to get much above 50.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the mid-Atlantic region. This morning, there is the chance for stray showers all ahead of a cold front. Once this cold front passes, we will start to dry out and looks much better for Friday afternoon. We'll have a good mix of sunshine and clouds. Then into the rest of the weekend, we'll stay mostly dry as high pressure builds over the region. As we continue into the afternoon, expect temperatures rising to the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s before cool down overnight.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Readers. A look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looking at Birmingham at 79 degrees compared to 83 Mobile, 80 in Pensacola, 87 Tampa, up in Atlanta 79, 82 in Raleigh. We do have a frontal boundary that's going to push through the area. A little bit of cloud cover associated with that frontal boundary. A little bit of rain in the mountainous region. Northwest Atlanta getting some showers and thunderstorms. Jackson, Mississippi, as well as Birmingham. As we go through the evening, those showers will continue to kind of dissipate along that front, and we'll get breaks in the clouds.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Some folks in Oklahoma woke up to a sundog treat Thursday morning. Sundogs form when light refracts through ice crystals. They're located 22 degrees to the right or left of the sun, sometimes both sides. This photographer, a couple of years shy of 70, says spotting this was a first. And these fall colors reflect in the water near Columbus, Ohio. With the ripples, they resemble an impressionist painting.
A combination of drought and extreme weather conditions and making for harder for livestock producers in Texas to have enough feed on hand for their cows. Drew Powell has more.
Around here, we're dealing with drought primarily, and we have short wet spells by and large all across the high plains.
We live in a continental climate. No, we do not have a coastal climate here on the Texas High Plains.
Moving animals across a landscape is a practice that has been going on for more than a century. However, it's becoming more challenging for livestock producers as the weather changes over the years.
What the challenges of the long periods of dry that we're having that seem to be becoming more prevalent, we were having to learn how to manage the quality and quantity of the feed we have available and match the stocking rate of these animals so that we don't have to purchase too much outside feed.
What we've got to try to do most of the time is meter out the quality forage and encourage the animals to mix that with some of the stuff of a little lesser quality.
Playa lakes are a primary source of recharge, providing clean water for future generations to enjoy.
We're definitely seeing longer periods of drought and more frequent periods of drought, but we're also seeing more intense rain events, so shorter, more intense but less frequent rain events. So that's going to adjust how you do your grazing plan on your grasslands and in your playas.
We still work within the paradigms of living within society and producing animals so people have their steaks and everything else, so we have good nutrition.
It's that time of year where we remind you don't veer for deer. It's rutting season when deer are searching for a mate, and they are most active from dusk until dawn. And unfortunately, that means a dramatic increase in deer car collisions. Nick Outoff has more from South Bend, Indiana.
As daylight becomes shorter, drivers need to be on the lookout mainly from dusk to dawn due to deer population on the move. In 2022, 64% of deer-related vehicle accidents in the state of Indiana took place on state or county roads. The months of October, November, and December, the leading months for deer activity. Indiana DNR says the reason is due to mating season.
Typically, this time of year is when our deer vehicle collisions go up. And it's primarily due to male deer, because the male deer are out roaming around the land looking for female deer to breed with.
Indiana State Police say if you do hit a deer while driving, you should safely move your vehicle out of the roadway. Do not go near the deer and file a crash report. Indiana State Police Sergeant Ted Bonner says the main thing to remember is to not swerve.
And when it comes to evasive maneuvers, the worst thing you can do is swerve. That's when we have absolutely bad crashes and bad things happen. Brake in a straight line if it's safe to do so. If there's somebody directly behind you, that's not a safe time. That's when, unfortunately, the better thing probably is just to hit the deer and deal with the consequences.
From an insurance standpoint, Gary Begonia, South Bend State Farm agent, says the 3 most important steps are to contact your insurance and make a claim, use one of the preferred repair shops recommended by your insurance agency, and your comprehensive deductible bill will vary from $0 to $1,000 depending on your current insurance.
And Halloween is over, so what happens now with all those decorations? Well, meteorologist Violet Skyborn explains how to get rid of your pumpkins and prevent them from polluting the environment.
Many of you may have pumpkins on your porch, but did you know that pumpkins produce pollution? An average large pumpkin that you'll get from a pumpkin patch weighs about 10 to 15 pounds. How much pollution does this produce? Well, let's say you have about 10 pumpkins at your house. An average household probably has about 3 to 5, but 10 pumpkins, which is about 100 pounds, produces 8 pounds of methane, which is a greenhouse gas pollutant. And methane is 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide at contributing to climate change. So, after you carve your pumpkin, here are some ways that you can prevent that pollution. Take all of the scraps. You can make pumpkin puree, eat the pumpkin seeds, turn it into baked goods, or even take the scraps and turn it into a soup. But what do you do with the pumpkin after it's carved and on your porch and already decaying? Well, don't throw it in a trash bag, trash can, or anywhere where it's going to end up in a landfill. Because when pumpkins get cut off from oxygen, bacteria eats away at it and burps out that methane gas, which again, as I mentioned, adds to climate change. The better thing to do is to take that pumpkin and bury it. Maybe even give it a little grave, R.I.P. to the pumpkin. But it's going to a good cause. It's great fertilizer. It adds nutrients to the soil, including nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, which actually adds to the soil structure, retaining water and helps the soil retain nutrients, which helps plants grow. So it can actually be a good addition to your garden. But if you don't have one, another thing you could do with your pumpkins is send it to a compost.
Daylight saving time comes to an end this weekend, and we fall back 1 hour early Sunday morning, returning to standard time. Emily Gracie spoke to a sleep expert to find out how changing the clocks twice a year impacts our circadian rhythm.
In humans, our circadian system or our circadian clock is entrained primarily by light exposure specifically. And so we actually have cells in our eyes that directly connect. It's a direct neuronal connection from our eyes to our clock in our brain. And those cells are activated or controlled specifically by light exposure.
So let's talk about daylight saving and how we are changing our clocks twice a year at this point. What does that do? An hour doesn't seem like much. Like everybody says they feel it. Some people less so. But what is that actually doing to our health to change the clock twice a year?
It's actually doing quite a lot to our circadian clock. And, you know, there's definitely some pretty strong evidence at the anecdotal level. People notice it. And especially like when you spring forward in the spring, so you lose that hour of sleep, nobody likes that. And everybody complains about it. It's like anecdotally, you can feel that you're missing that hour of sleep. And then when we look at sort of the population level, we know that during that spring forward time frame, during that week when that happens, after that time change, on the highways, there's more accidents and there's more severe accidents that result in people dying. There's a higher incidence of heart attack. And then on the flip side of it, we don't see that happen in the fall when we fall back and you get an extra hour of sleep. So there isn't an increase in accidents. There isn't these elevated risk of heart attacks during that week. And so that's really nice data that directionally shows that losing that hour of sleep is important.
Okay, so there is like a group of people, a lot of people, who would love to just shift to daylight saving time all year long. What is your opinion on that?
So I'm definitely of the opposite opinion, where probably the optimal would be, if we're going to adopt one time, it's going to be standard time.
And before a short break, we soar over Lake City, Michigan. Beautiful foliage there as well.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Cool temperatures across the Midwest for the day today. Bismarck only getting to 44 degrees for the high temperature, 46 there in Minneapolis after some of that snow. As we continue through the rest of the Midwest, a lot of sunshine to the south here. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s for a lot of the Midwest for today and even into the day tomorrow. But rain starting to move into the plains. That continues to head towards the Great Lakes through Sunday.
Well, good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, getting the month of November started. Could have a shower thunderstorm along the Gulf Coast where it's tropically humid. Otherwise, through the day, mostly to partly sunny skies. Any kind of a rain chance near the Gulf Coast. Friday night, could see a strong thunderstorm or two in the Texas Panhandle. There you see a cluster of them developing into Saturday morning. Through the day on Saturday, chance of scattered storms with some wind gusts and some hail. Highs 60s, 70s. Otherwise, humid towards the Gulf Coast, 70s and 80s for highs.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Here comes the month of November, and it's finally starting to cool down across the country, especially over the northern plains. 41 will be at around Jackson Hole today, and we've got stormy skies kicking off the new month in Puget Sound and back into Portland, too. This is why I look at this big weather maker. Deep area of low pressure going to hang out along the Oregon coastline today, bringing some heavy snow eventually to the northern Rockies. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's Friday, which means it's time for our weekly football forecast. Here's meteorologist Katie Morgan.
We've got some weather to deal with some of our games of the week, starting with our college games here. We will be looking at good weather for the Texas A&M South Carolina matchup in Columbia, South Carolina. Temperatures in the mid-70s under a partly cloudy sky. That is a night game. Not too bad for the Ohio State-Penn State game. That'll be a great matchup. Temperatures are looking good. Weather is perfect in State College. We'll be dodging some showers, though, for the Pitt SMU game. That'll be in University Park, Texas. Scattered rain around with temperatures hovering right around 70 degrees, and that is a night game as well. To Sunday we go, also dealing with some rain in Green Bay. Another really good matchup this weekend. Detroit taking on Green Bay. Temperatures will be in the upper 50s with some of those rain showers around. Also in Seattle, dealing with some showers. Temperatures a little cool there, around 52. And great looking weather for the Commanders in town, taking on the Giants. Temperatures in the upper 50s with partly cloudy skies. Hope everyone is having a great start to your Friday and have an excellent weekend. I'm meteorologist Katie Morgan.
And thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Senior Meteorologist Brian Vangraff for WJLA in Washington. Make it a great day and a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.